Good evening. I'm Kelly Wright, and thanks for joining me as we spend the next hour together. As always, I do hope you're safe and well, taking care of yourself and your family because you matter. My opening observations tonight, we're all in this together. Yes, we are fighting the COVID-19 pandemic together, especially when it's now reached more than 214,000 deaths. Well, let's think about that. Are we really in this together when we have a president who is still refuting the science? Are we really in this together when we still have a lot of health disparities based on race? And speaking of race, are we really in this together when we still have a racial divide and a political divide? You see, Blacks are not the only ones being exposed to racial injustice because there's also Latinx Americans, Native Americans, and Asian Americans, stoked by the statements of the president that the coronavirus is a China virus. And so Asian Americans are exposed to violent measures from people who dislike them because of the color of their skin. So when it comes to being in this together, we find that Blacks, Browns, Asians, people of color are in this together. The interesting thing about fighting against racism and against a pandemic is that we cannot afford to be divided. We must be united. It's not a left thing. It's not a right thing. It's not a Republican or Democrat or conservative or liberal thing. It's a right and wrong thing. And it is wrong for us to be divided when we must all stand united in order to win the war against racism and to win the fight for our lives against COVID-19. Just 3 weeks away now from the vote. You've heard it said very loudly and clearly, vote as if your life depends on it. Because if we're all in this together, your life truly does depend on your vote. And those are my opening observations. And on Capitol Hill today, the Senate Judiciary Committee began its confirmation hearings of Judge Amy Coney Barrett for the Supreme Court. Senator Kamala Harris, the Democratic vice presidential candidate, is also a member of the Senate Judiciary Committee, and she weighed in on the matter, Senator Harris appearing virtually during the meeting, stating why she disagrees with the president's nomination of Judge Barrett and why she disagrees with the Republicans trying to push through the confirmation hearing.
I do believe this hearing is a clear attempt to jam through a Supreme Court nominee who will take health care away from millions of people during a deadly pandemic that has already killed more than 214,000 Americans. I believe we must listen to our constituents and protect their access to health care and wait to confirm a new Supreme Court justice until after Americans decide who they want in the White House.
So joining me now to talk about all things as it pertains to the Supreme Court, which is what Washington is looking at right now, is Rita Jo Lewis. She's a political analyst working in Washington, D.C. as an attorney as well. And Rita Jo, when we look at this presidential nomination of Amy Coney Barrett, the mother of 7 children, a conservative, the dream nominee, if you will, from the Republicans' point of view, yet and still, there are millions of Americans hurting in this country. And we see the Republicans rushing to get her passed and confirmed, yet they have not rushed to help the American people with dire needs financially with a new stimulus package and CARES Act.
You know, Kelly, thank you so much for having me this morning. I think you make a very good point about where's the rush to really pass another stimulus package that can assist and help so many American people. I think over the weekend, what we saw, especially coming out of Democratic candidates, was that to rush this nomination is really unheard of. It hasn't really happened in decades. this close to an election. Also, I believe that what we heard all weekend long is that, of course, not only is democracy on the ballot, but an issue that matters to the American people is on the ballot, and that's the Affordable Care Act. And I think that Justice Barrett has already shown where she wants to come down on that, and that would be a very conservative tilt for a bench that would be in the Republicans' favor if she becomes not only her hearing today, but if she comes out of the hearing and be voted as a final nominee for a lifetime position. And so, when you really kind of look at the Supreme Court, you have to really look at the nuance of how judges have voted in the past. And one of the things that she has repeatedly said is she is a conservative judge. And so we have to be concerned about the fact that the people is really, I believe, is what should be watched today in these hearings, because their voices are going to matter as to who they elect the president. Because we have, and what I think you've seen from the opponents in terms of Joe Biden and Kamala Harris have said, let the people vote. That's what they did for the president, and then let the president select the justice. And that's what happened. And former President Obama, he was a year out, and they would not allow that justice to be even hold hearings and to be voted on. And the same thing should happen here with us less than 3 weeks out from one of the most important elections in our lifetime.
Rita Jo, you were talking earlier about the Affordable Care Act and that this justice, if she's approved and confirmed, would likely vote in favor of repealing the Affordable Care Act. And to that end, has the President of the United States ever put forward an affordable position? He said he had an alternative health care plan. Have you seen it? Have the American people seen it? And furthermore, has he put in something that would cover pre-existing conditions, which is so important for the American people, especially during this time when they're battling with COVID-19 and other issues with regard to health disparities?
The answer simply is no. We've seen some executive orders that have just been simple in nature, but we have not seen anything that has been extensive, or one of which Congress would then be able to vote on. I think the American people have expressed their opinion about their desire to see the Affordable Care Act remain and expanded, not just remain, but also expanded, especially for those with pre-existing conditions. When people say your health care is on the ballot right now, that's very important for those this 30 plus million people who are unemployed or underemployed right now in this American economy. It's very important for those who have contracted the coronavirus and those who no matter what might happen, may lose their health care tomorrow. It's very important in terms of what's happening on the Affordable Care Act that we haven't seen the president, this administration put forward for those who have businesses and employees. And so that's why I think healthcare is so important right now, and it's turning out to be one of the number one issues that voters are looking at.
Rita Jo Lewis talking to me right now. Let's take a break. When we come back, we'll talk about the campaign in and of itself and what your prognostication is about the election, which is less than 25 days away. Back with more after this. Welcome back to the program. We're talking to Rita Jo Lewis, an attorney as well as a political analyst. And how do you view the election right now? Because we know that President Trump has been hit hard on his mishandling, or what people have characterized as his mishandling of the coronavirus pandemic. Yet he's still getting out there to campaign. And then we see former Vice President Joe Biden campaigning, but doing it in a way that really safeguards the American people that he comes into contact with.
Kelly, that is one of the most important topics that everyone is talking about, with less than a little bit more than 3 weeks away to Election Day. And that's why when you see someone like Joe Biden who says, I'm going to allow the science and the facts determine how how he, as well as his vice president nominee Kamala Harris, will campaign. And it is safety first. It is the safety of the American people. But within that safety, I think people are, I'm a very optimistic person by nature, and I see Joe Biden leading in the polls. But you know what? Democrats are not being fooled by that. Democrats have said, what I have seen over the weekend and over these last many weeks and months is that you got to keep working like your life depends on it. And that means that in this very important election, there are so many things that are on this ballot. And one of the most important things is how America is viewed around the world. We just talked about how healthcare is a big issue, is going to be on the ballot. Democracy and the rule of law as an attorney is on the ballot. As an attorney, when I see people flaunt the rule of law and do not uphold what the constitutionality of all types of things that I, went to school for, and as they say, was on the bar exam. They said you couldn't even practice law if you didn't understand what the basic rules and principles of our U.S. Constitution is. And so when you see those things being thwarted, when you see those things being overruled, when you see those things being act like they don't exist, you have to be concerned. I think that people are optimistic, but they are continuing to be worried, because the most important thing of all of this is about turnout. It's about turnout the vote. It is about young people. It's about people of color. It's about women of color. It's about African Americans, Hispanic Americans, making sure that the enthusiasm continues, not on about what is not going to happen, but what the hope and future of this country can look like under new leadership. And that's why I think people are just continuing to be enthused, but yet you cannot rest on your laurels, because get to 270, you need not only need the popular vote, but you need the vote in those states that matter, that Democrats didn't fare so well in. And so you've got to, I think the poll, you have to pay attention, but that does not, should not deter you from going out and voting, even if it does show Biden with a lead or a strong lead or a stronger lead right now.
The vote is really important. And what's your message to the American people about how they see themselves? Forget about the world right now. How do the American people see themselves?
I think the way the American people are beginning to look at this, and I heard some things over the weekend and read some things, talked to a number of people that we're working with, is that, Joe Biden, I think, had said we cannot let hate right now triumph over the hope that we have for our country. We cannot allow those who want to divide us as a country, separating us by race and class or creed or color or ethnicity, be what is going to govern in America. We cannot be divided. And with that, I think that's why you have a ticket like a Joe Biden and a Kamala Harris that says that's the future of our country, an optimistic one, a hopeful one, a one whereby people can be unified and come together. And I think throughout their careers and their experiences have shown that they have the ability to be able to do that. And so I think what they're saying also to the American voter is, do not allow, just because you want to move the ballot boxes, because you want to take up the mailboxes, because you want to try to close the hours that people won't have to be able to vote early, to deter those, to suppress that vote. I think you're seeing so much energy now, which is what is going to be needed to say on November the 3rd and before, vote early, make a plan to vote, as they say. And then when you do, if you are going to vote on election day or vote early, do it safely. And so in such that is what is on the ballot. And I think overwhelmingly, being the optimistic person that I am, I believe people are coming out to send a message. And that message should be that we want new leadership. In that new leadership, we want to be, it's about ourselves. Before we can even think about others around the country, around the world, let's think about ourselves as Americans and vote for new leadership.
All right, Attorney Rita Jo Lewis weighing in politically for us today, and we thank you for that. Have a great day, and don't be a stranger. Come on the program anytime.
Anytime. Thank you very much. I really appreciate it.
Thanks, Rita Jo. God bless. Back with more after this. So welcome back to the program. As many of you know, the President of the United States is hitting the campaign trail again. He just conducted a rally at the White House a couple of days ago, in which we saw many people gathered there on the lawn of the White House as the president spoke from the balcony of the residence there at the White House. But the bottom line is, he says he has immunity. Well, we thought we'd weigh in on that medically, and I would talk to Dr. Joffrey Mount Varner, who's an ER physician here in the DC area, in the nation's capital. Doc, good of you to join us today. When you heard that the President of the United States stated, I have immunity with the COVID-19 and that my doctors have cleared me, so I'm now on the campaign trail, did it strike you odd, or is there such a thing as immunity from the COVID-19 virus?
It struck me as odd, but it made sense. And here's why. When you're infected of any virus, not just COVID, your body mounts an immune response and you develop antibodies. That takes about 2 weeks for you to develop antibodies. And those antibodies are usually good. They give you a fair amount of immunity for a period of time. With like COVID, we don't know how long. In general, we're thinking at a minimum 3 months. So his comments made sense. What did not make sense was, hold on, how do we know that you're no longer infectious? So he will have immunity at some point, but how do we know it's now? And how do we know that you're no longer infectious? That's what went through my mind.
And do you think we have enough transparency from his doctors about that aspect of it, if he's infectious or not?
Well, given the fact that he is a public figure, given the fact that there's a precedence for what presidents release, I am pretty clear that we don't have enough information from his doctors. And then, unfortunately, because of how they have behaved, there's always this question about doubt. Because if you've noticed, even with the statement that they released, I didn't hear it say he tested negative. I didn't hear that. I heard a lot of stuff that led to that, but I didn't hear those direct words.
So what should people learn from this in terms of safeguarding their families, each other, and moving forward, especially among Black and brown and people of color? Because let's face it, many of the Black and brown people of color are on the front lines with this. They're essential workers.
What I would say to you is trust the science. Find someone on TV, on CNN, MSN, some reputable, licensed practicing physician. Find someone that you can trust and listen to, and it's several of them, and follow their advice. Because we're in a strange period of time. The White House is a special place. They probably have gotten more tests than anybody else. I wouldn't necessarily follow their lead. Follow the CDC, the like WHO, your doctor, or just listen to physicians on the national stage. And I've learned, they've tended to give pretty good advice.
Dr. Joffrey Mount Varner, as we move forward, that's good advice we can adhere to. And should people be getting their flu shots as well, since we're in this pandemic, and now we have the flu that's spiraling around as we get into colder weather?
If you have gotten a flu shot in the past, I absolutely recommend you getting a flu shot. Let me take a step further. For those over the age of 65, or for those of us who have parents and loved ones, make sure they get their flu shot early, because theirs is different, and there's a shortage that is starting to happen. And once you get the shot, it takes about 2 weeks for your body to develop the immunity that comes from the shot. It is so important that you get your shot. And for those over the age of 65, the nasal spray doesn't work. You've got to get the shot, which has 4 different strains. For those of us under the age of 65, our shot only has 3 different strains.
All right, sir. Thank you. Thank you very much for weighing in on this and sharing your insights about COVID-19 and influenza. Dr. Joffrey Mount Varner, ER physician here in the nation's capital. We'll be back with more after this. Welcome back from the break. And now I'd like to introduce to you a very good friend of mine, Li Jing. She is the owner and CEO of Star Global, based in New York, but it's global. Also doing work in China, where it's Li. Let me ask you about your company, because I've known you for a number of years, and you've always had a great, successful business. Tell me about Star Global and the impact it's having.
Okay, thank you, Kelly. It's always been my pleasure to be on your show. I transformed from a TV journalist to an entrepreneur. Used to work for NBC and CBS. So Star Global Group, which is based in New York, we are helping the US and China in terms of marketing and business. And we especially helping those top 1%, those business leaders in their cross-border efforts. So since COVID, our clients in the past, in like celebrities and top billionaires and Forbes company, publicly traded company, also startup. But since COVID happened, it put such a huge stop and pause in terms of the U.S. and China, business, even transportation. It's very difficult now even to go to different countries. So it has a huge impact in terms of business and life, as everybody, you have been experienced. But what's interesting right now is that China, where the virus started in January, and it's actually pretty much back to normal. People back to business and everything. And when you look at the numbers, China has about more than 4 times of the US population, but the total death is only a few thousand people. It's shocking. And in the US, the death rate is about 20 times of China, and the infection rate is about 10 times of what happened in China. But the whole population is only like a quarter of what China is. So this is really interesting for me to witness what's happening from where it started and to the impact in the US where I live.
Now, that's amazing. And as you know, the president of the United States has been blaming China for the COVID-19 pandemic. He's gone on to say such things as like calling it the China virus, even being challenged by Asian reporters saying, Mr. President, why would you say that? And he's been very negative about it, even going on to disparage the people of Asian descent. As a result of that, Li, have you and your colleagues been experiencing discrimination and prejudice from Americans who are looking to China to blame for this virus because of the statements made by the president?
Absolutely, because the president is the leader of the country. So what he said had a huge impact in this country and the people. And he called this the China virus. It's like common flu. But the irony is that he actually caught the virus. So now it's become like American presidential virus. It's not just Chinese virus. So this you can see that this virus is universal. It's like maybe start from one country or one area, but it's human. It's passed from human to human. And just when you look at the history, when the HIV and swine flu and flu itself, when it started from certain areas, and then people associated people in that area to this virus, but it's actually human. It can happen any country, any areas. Like you can associate swine flu with Mexican American, or the flu with German. It's just so universal. What the president said, I think is just misleading in a way, and to have people blame this on the victim. Like Chinese and where it's infected, they're the victim. They started this and they experienced this terrible disaster firsthand, and they tried the best to stop this. But I think you just put the blame into the victim and then didn't do much to protect our country, the US and people. I think that's really, make me feel that's really worrying me. And the other thing is when he mentioned that when this just started in like February, March, we already experienced like people stay away from us, they yelled at us on the street, and also like there are a lot of physical violence attacking Asian in New York, and like subway and on the street, you see so many cases. It's really sad when I hear those news, because I feel we are, as humans, we all victims of this situation. We should all be together, work together to try to stop this and try to find a vaccine and try to protect each other in this environment.
Lee, stay with me. When we come back, we'll talk about how this kind of rhetoric is causing problems with business as well. But more importantly, how do we get beyond this so that all Americans, Black, brown, yellow, all people of color can come together and make this a nation where there's equal justice under the law? Back with more after this. Yeah, and Lee, you have friends from all different backgrounds and all different faith, religion, and economic backgrounds. New York City has been like a great place. I recently talked to, and then in San Francisco, I recently spoke with the mayor of San Francisco, and she basically stated that her city continues to deal with human relations and bringing all people together, particularly since a large portion of the community in San Francisco is Asian American. And I know that in New York, there are efforts underway now to make sure that the racism towards Asian Americans, Black Americans, Hispanic, Latino Americans is dropped. And New York is very good about that with its Human Relations Board, as is the case with San Francisco and its Human Rights Commission. But to the larger extent, when you have the President of the United States still calling this a China virus, what would be your message to the President and to the White House about making sure that all Americans are appreciated and not put them in a place where there's more racial animosity?
I would like to tell President Trump that, Mr. President, this is a virus, unfortunately, affected all of us. It started, or maybe started in China, but you should not be calling this Chinese virus, just like we should not be calling anything started in US an American virus. That would be a really, bad misconception toward each other, and it didn't help to bring our countries together. US is a country of immigrants, a country bring all the people from all over the world together. But calling it a Chinese virus really separate us and give people like really wrong idea. Now you have firsthand experience this virus, that you should know that this is affecting human, not a certain race, not certain race started. So we should all work together to not just help people to conquer this virus, but also from the psychological part, because a lot of people experience isolation, loneliness, depression through this whole pandemic. Please do not add more pain to what we are already suffering.
Lee, I appreciate you always. We've been friends for a number of years, many, many years. I won't tell people because I don't want people to know that. I want people to realize that you're only 21. But thanks for coming on the program. And I know that you're making it through this pandemic with your business, your international company. And I just think you have an incredible American story about how you came here so many years ago to go to college, and you didn't really know the language. And then you learned it and you turned your dream into a reality in becoming an American citizen and going on to work as an Asian American at networks throughout the country. I'm just so proud of you. Thank you.
Thank you, Kelly. I think you have been my inspiration as well. Like you had these great shows and your story. And one thing what I love about American and your show is that it gives people hope and the spirit of American dream. Because I'm the example and you're an example. I come in here, out of my love for this country, that tolerance and openness. And so that's why I'm very lucky to be here talking to you. And I know like you have inspired so many people, including me. And that's why I think this is a great and very important message to share with people, to be really learn about their story and learn about who they are, and don't have too much judgment, because this is what's the beauty of America, that we are coming from all over the world and come together and make this country a greatest country in the world.
Much love to you, Lee. Appreciate you being on the show. Lee Jing, President and CEO of Star Global New York. Thank you.
Thank you, Kelly.
We'll be back with more after this. Welcome back to the program. So this show is always designed to try to not only inform you, but also to inspire you. And if you take a look around and see what's going on in our world today, you might be in need of some inspiration. There's a lot of high stress and anxiety out here because of the political campaign, the racial divide, the political divide, but most importantly, because of the global pandemic known as coronavirus. So I thought I'd bring in my good friend, Jose Flores. He's in the house right now to give us a good dose of inspiration. Before we begin, Jose, welcome back to the program, man. I've missed you.
Thank you so much, man. I love you, brother. Thank you for having me. It's always fun hanging out with you and your audience.
You know, thank you for that. We don't tell each other enough in this world today that we love each other. And back at you, man. Love you too, and all the good things that you're doing. Always putting people into a place of understanding that there's positivity out of every negative situation. So look, here we are, Jose. We're in this negative situation called coronavirus. We've got a racial divide. And yet I see that despite your circumstances, you are an overcomer, and you keep telling people the best is yet to come. Why?
Because that's the only option we have, man, right? It's either we're gonna think that and believe that, or we're gonna think the contrary. And so I always choose the latter, because I want my life to look exciting. I want my life to not only look exciting, but be exciting. And I want to just be able to live a life that's not only filled with success and abundance, but with good and loving people such as yourself that are making a huge impact around the globe.
Well, you're doing that too. I mean, you make an impact everywhere you go. You know, your face lights up. Your wife's face lights up when you guys, just the other day, you guys had me laughing because you said, "Look, everybody, we need to take a laugh break." You wanted to laugh for 60 seconds. Your wife wanted to laugh for 15 seconds. You convinced her to go for 60 seconds, and you seal it with a kiss and get people laughing again. We need a good dose of some laughter, which is good for the soul as well.
Yeah, absolutely, man. You know, laughter is contagious, and it's a great practice. You know, if you're out there and you're going through a struggle or you're going through a hard time, and you have family members around, just practice that. Give it a shot and see how it makes you feel. Just look at each other, make eye contact, and just start laughing, even if it's fake, because that fake laugh eventually is going to catch fire, and it's going to turn into a real laugh. And what happens is when you're laughing, your body is releasing endorphins and serotonins, and those are the body's natural feel-good chemicals. So you can literally change your state in a moment by just practicing that easy, simple thing of laughing.
Yeah, you know what, Jose? It reminds me of that statement, "I got to laugh to keep from crying." And right now, because of the number of deaths that we're seeing from COVID-19, and just the sheer magnitude of the heartbreak and the pain from seeing people just go through the financial problems, people standing in food lines. Yet I do have to admit that when I was standing in a food line, watching people get their food and being there to help them, they had some laughter in their soul. They say, "Hey, I got nothing else to do. I'm going to laugh. I'm going to keep some faith. This is a tough time for me and my family, but it's good that people out here are trying to help each other."
Yeah, you know, one of the beautiful things about it is that by human nature, when we're faced with a difficulty, when we're faced with a challenge, when we're faced with an adversity, our human nature has a desire to look for something positive. It has a desire to look for something that's on the bright side of things. And so wherever we go, we're always on the lookout for something like that. That's why I try to be that small beacon of light everywhere I go, so that I can go into a room or go into a store or a shopping center and just light that place on fire because of my attitude, my personality, my smile, my charisma, and just the energy that I bring with me everywhere I go. And people are looking for that. They're hungry for that, especially like you said, during this pandemic with everything that everyone is going through. People are looking for that little glimmer of hope.
We'll be back with more after this. Welcome back to the program. I'm talking to my good friend and hopefully now becoming a good friend of yours, Jose Flores. He is he's a messenger of hope, just like he said. And I love it because hope is what we need. Look, we're up against everything, Jose. I mean, everything except the kitchen sink is being thrown at us. And for some families, the kitchen sink has left the building and they're in dire straits and dire need. So for those people who are watching and they said, I just can't get I can't get myself motivated. I can't get myself inspired. I'm just so flat. I'm so down because of all the stuff that's going on in our society. How do you lift them up?
Well, Kelly, that's a powerful point that you're making because people have a hard time of staying self-motivated, and even me sometimes. I'm human as well. I'm the motivated to the motivators, Les Brown calls me, right? But I have my days as well. And as your audience can see, I'm in a wheelchair. And due to a condition that I was born with called spinal muscular atrophy, and I've had my fair share of struggles and adversities and challenges throughout my entire life. Even to this day, living life in the wheelchair isn't easy. But one of the things, man, that keeps me moving forward, and I know this may sound cliche or so minute, but I've already understood how to put myself and develop an attitude of gratitude. For so many years, Kelly, I was always thinking about and focusing on the things that I couldn't do, the things and the abilities that I was losing physically as this condition started to take over my body. And for so many years, I was focused on the wrong things. And once I realized that, right, I had to develop a sense of awareness. So if you're in a place where you feel like you don't know where you're going and your back is against the wall, just develop that sense of awareness of where you are right now, what your life looks like, what you want it to look like, and how you're going to get there. And then develop a plan, write things down, start journaling, or, voice record it on your cell phone so that you can listen to it later on and start hearing yourself speak. Because, the mind is such a powerful thing, and our subconscious mind is very powerful. And the things that we speak out in the open, audible. That's why I'm a fan of affirmations and just speaking life into existence. And so when you're in that place where you don't know where you're going and your back is against the wall and you don't know how your next win is going to come, just start to focus on the things that you do have and the things that you are able to do, and develop that attitude of gratitude, because that again is going to change your chemical makeup in your body. You start to release, when you start to get yourself into a state of gratitude, your body starts to release those chemicals again and you start to feel good. And then next thing you know, you went from being depressed at any level to being excited and happy and motivated and full of hope once again to go out and chase the dreams and the aspirations and the goals that you want in life.
Brother, I'm so proud of you, and more than proud of you. I just like we said earlier, we truly love each other as brothers and good friends. And as you continue to move forward, where can people find you to stay in touch with you and to watch all the great inspirational and motivational messages of hope and empowerment that you give?
Yeah, sure. Absolutely. They can go to my website, joseinspires.com. There, they'll be able to find my book, my merchandise. I have, I actually just created a new digital course called the Mindset Takeover Mastery. For those of you that are watching and you're ready to not only take over your mind, but take over everything else that you wanted in life, you can go ahead and check that out. Mindset Takeover Mastery. And the website for that, it's on my website, but you can go to mindsettakeover.com for that. And you can follow me on all social media platforms at Jose Inspires. Very simple, easy, unified across the board. And what I like to do for you as well, Kelly, not only for you and your, but also for your audience, I have a motivational CD called The Power of Showing Up, because nothing is going to happen for you in life unless you show up for life. So I want to go ahead and bless all of your audience and your viewers with the free copy of that. All they have to do is go to freegift.joseinspires.com. Listen to the CD. It's going to motivate the heck out of you, and it's going to take you to a level where you thought you would never be able to go.
That's awesome. Thank you for that, by the way, as well. See that it pays to have good friends. Jose,
Right.
and Jose, look, man, you just keep inspiring people, and I like the fact that you're talking about that mindset that you're establishing, because free your mind and the rest will follow. And just come on back anytime. You know what we got to do? One day we're going to have a show with you, Les Brown, and Willie Jolly joining me for a power-packed hour of power, inspiration, to let people know whatever gets in their way, it's got to move. It's got to move. And after talking to the three of you in one day, the champions of hope right here, we'll be ready. We'll be ready for
let
the
me know,
next
man.
day
I
and
would
every
love to be
day.
a part of that.
We'll make it happen. We'll make it happen.
Thank
Jose
you.
Flores, everybody, inspiring us on this Monday, giving us some motivation. I think it will take you through the rest of the week as well, but he's not mad at me. He'll always come back.
That's right. I'm only a phone call away.
All right. Much love to you, brother. We're coming back with more after this. And welcome back. I would like to thank all of the guests who appeared on tonight's program. And I especially want to thank each and every one of you for taking time out of your schedule to watch. I appreciate you. In closing, my final word is this: we must work hard to inspire each other and lift each other up. Remember what I said at the top of the show: we are in this together, not to be divided, but to be united. All races, all creeds coming together in order to help us overcome this COVID-19 pandemic and to lift each other up to keep moving forward, not backwards. Make sure you register to vote and get out and vote. And make sure that we continue to strive to be righted, ignited, and united to keep spreading not fear, but love, freedom, and peace. Good night.
Come on, all aboard. Let me break it down for you like this. The rhythm of love is easy to find if you're listening. The color of light isn't red, black, or white, but it's crimson. We all bleed the same. If you don't feel the groove, it's alright. Just give it time, give it time. Come on, y'all. Get on board. Mankind won't survive if our hearts beat inside a hateful rhythm. You see, love isn't bought, but comes with a price of forgiveness, and we all bleed the same. Yeah. If you don't feel it now, just wait.